What's that hat, T?
Wazoo.
Oh. Did they end up winning?
Nope.
No.
Hell no. You'd be hearing about that if they had.
Yeah, we probably would have been hearing about it, I guess so. But
I knew that would.
it looked good there early on.
In some kind of parade or something that would be going on right now.
I probably would have drove to Columbia because it would have been one hell of a party.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I was wondering, but it was looking good early, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was kind of watching it in passing. In
your quarterback
locations.
threw a late pick that kind of sealed the deal.
Well, drink's
they
an
were driving.
awful game day coach. So you're always going to get out coached the second half. So your talent can only take you so far. And he's never liked Cook anyway. So like he's
it was kind of good to see
the whole time.
Yeah, it was kind of good to see you and old Craig Cook actually like feeling a little bit down about your sports teams. I get so tired of the gloating over the Chiefs.
I've never.
It feels good to see. It felt good to see you guys take.
I actually told this story.
A mini
so
L.
bad that it's never going to get. Like I got a wall up there with India.
And then the Dolphins were coming back on your Chiefs, and I was like, oh, this could be a thing here. No,
I wasn't worried about that.
I think JT is one of the greatest sports fans. Like, I love the enthusiasm that he has all the time and the passion.
Let him come be a Panthers fan. See how that.
I'm just saying, but
hey,
he's been through plenty of trials and tribulations with the Chiefs.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's right. We forget who was the Trent Green, right?
That was a good one.
I think that was a good
one.
Right?
Yeah. And then who was after that?
Oh god, we had Matt Castle, Damon Here, Tyler Thigpen. I mean, I'm telling you, we've had some fucking doozies. Did
you say Tyler Pigpen? Is he like a character from a cartoon?
Yeah, well, yeah, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he couldn't throw the ball.
Who was the other?
Holy shit!
Yeah, he couldn't throw the ball.
Who was the other guy? You said another guy recently.
Alex Smith.
Yeah.
No, because he was
Alex
all right too.
Check down Alex, right? That's what JT
Brody
called
Coyle.
him.
Yeah. God damn, there's been a bunch.
You guys had a rotating door there for a little bit, didn't you?
We had
we had Marty Schottenheimer as a coach at one point in time, which
like if they weren't good enough to play on another team, that's usually the guy that we got. Yeah.
But then you had like Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah, he sucked.
And who was that guy? Who was the punt returner?
Was might have been.
He was pretty good, wasn't
he?
Who was the punt returner?
He would make
guy?
the circus catch, but he wouldn't make the 3rd and 9 right in the numbers catch.
Dante Hall. That was the punt returner guy.
Oh yeah, the X Factor.
But JT White, like I love his. I was telling this to some friends this weekend that JT's like he brings all the excitement and enthusiasm and the passion about his sports team, but when things go awry, he's not like devastated for 6 months about it or whatever. Like because it's so funny. It's like every time
I try not to be
your Chiefs
devastated
lost, and he's like, nah,
he probably needed
it's gonna happen. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
Well, you got like a dynasty going.
Yeah,
we're 6 or 7 years into stuck down here,
which is a dynasty.
And I absolutely believe that they need to lose a couple games every now and then to humble them. Like, hey, you better get your ass in there and start practice.
Good for them.
It is good.
Speaking of which, I'm going to talk about being humbled here today, so I'm excited. Blake,
you got humbled.
The family did, I think, kind of. The whole the Buck clan, maybe. Yeah, interesting thing. Blake, let's roll the tape. We'll talk
First time since I've known you.
This. That hurts. That somebody's going to hang on to that. Jeez Louise.
I drank beer with one of your uncles.
I'm trying to give Blake little clips to use here.
Yeah, thanks. I think he's got plenty.
West.
I saw that. Uncle Mike hanging out with
JT. Yeah,
man, I'm surprised y'all didn't get into a squabble. That's that used to be my Uncle Mike's go-to activity. Yeah.
So
Mike's
he squabbled with somebody else because they said something to me or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy you want on your side for sure. Hip replacement, be damned.
Yeah.
You want
What'd you say?
my Uncle Mike Buck. What? No, I love my Uncle Mike. There's few.
Well, he went from having
like
one drink, like I had to talk him into having a beer, to I think he closed the place down with me.
That's that may
also party. I can't remember, but
okay. All right, roll the tape. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history. I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut. It's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. Let's stop what you're doing, wherever you're at right now. Click like, click subscribe, help us spread the gospel of drag racing, because we need all the help we can get out here. It makes a huge difference in the algorithm. Join the comments, be a part of the conversation. It's that's what it takes. That's absolutely what it takes. We're so glad to have you today. We got another barn burner of an episode lined up. We're going to check in with a longtime friend of mine, we're coming up on like the 20-year mark I've known this cat. Mike the Hitman Hill is going to join us to talk about all the things happening in the no-time grudge racing scene. We're also going to check in with a longtime friend of Drag Illustrated, Elon Werner from Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza, as well as Werner Communications. I'd say one of the industry's leading PR operations. But before we do that, I got to check in with the squad. Got Mike Carpenter in the house. JT Hudson, what's up, guys? You doing well?
What's up, man? You totally whiffed on JT's Humpty Dance.
Yep. Stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin.
Stop what you're doing, because
yeah,
sorry. Funny. I heard noise in my ears, and I'm like, man, he's got to know better than this. We gotta rise up. But I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. What'd you do this weekend? Do you guys do anything fun?
Yeah.
Nope.
Nothing.
What did you do?
Me or him?
No, Wes.
Me is you can tell this is a setup. Yeah. Can you tell this is a setup?
This was a softball. I'm lobbing it back to you.
I was like, okay.
Well, no, JT had a pretty good Sunday because your team played at like 8:30 a.m. Central.
Yeah, very straight.
So you guys,
and then I got bored.
Did you guys start drinking at 8:30
a.m.? I got bored and
a.m.?
went out Saturday night, and then went way too late. Went to an after bar party, and then
ooh, that's a long day. And that's one of those days where I cannot keep up with you.
Took a little nap, got back up, hit the. Yeah, they had a big old spread at my buddy's house, or brother's house. And, we had a great time. And then we played a little golf in between and watched some more football. Man, I tell you what, by the time the afternoon games came on, the 3 o'clock games, I thought the night games were starting. I was like...
It's been a long day.
It was a long day.
And the time changed. Man, that's a long day.
Walking around wondering why it's not dark.
Yeah.
JT's like, man, the sun is being persistent.
I know somebody asked if I got my bets in for the afternoon games, and I was like, isn't this I think the Dallas game is starting. I was like, isn't this the night game? And they're like, no, the Bills.
No, that baby was at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. No, I did. I had a big weekend. I wanted to, because I had one of those, like actually a first time dad experience. And this is something that like, I don't think we ever talk about here, like enough, because the experience that I had this past weekend, for those that don't like follow me on social media, if you don't, you probably should, at Wes Buck Show on Instagram and Facebook. We're probably my friend's deal's maxed out.
It's
I gotta
riveting.
figure that out.
It's content. Once
it's
every
an iconic
4 to 5 months.
Once every 4. Well, it's basically we start getting close to the race, and then I start getting excited.
As frequent as I post.
Yeah, I get excited when we get close to World. I was thinking about this a lot. I don't really like to. I like to kind of let the season start to settle before we go full throttle on the promotional efforts of some of our stuff, because I don't want to like just step over and step on everything else. Like, there's so many good things going on in the sport of drag racing that I don't want to like perpetually feel like I'm overshadowing them or attempting to overshadow them. I like to let these things happen and be able to be excited about it authentically and talk about these things and keep them top of mind and keep them in front of everybody. But now as the season's winding down, and it's like clear board, as my grandpa would say when the road was clear, and it was like, we've got an opportunity now that I can kind of turn it up. So be prepared for a little bit of a better follow. I'm going to do better. But I tell you, we don't talk about like all the family implications of racing and stuff. And I kind of had this experience with my son, Max, this weekend, where we went down to San Antonio, made the pilgrimage down there. It's not far, like 4 hours down to San Antonio, further than you think. Everywhere in Texas is further than you think. It does depend on which route you take, and I will share that part of this story here momentarily. But we took my son down there. He actually rode like charter buses with the high school, Alito High School, went down to San Antonio, got to play in the Alamo Dome. My son's in competitive marching band. And I'm serious, like whenever this whole thing started, I'm like, man, we lucked out as parents. Like, we're going to get to do band. Like, this is like great. You know what I mean? Like, this seems like a layup. Band, this is going to be fantastic. I don't hear like band horror stories from other parents. This is going to be like no big deal.
Band camp.
Well, band in Texas is different than like band where I'm from. Like, band where I'm from is like 20 kids in one room with one teacher. Everybody's got a different instrument. Nobody knows how to play them. It's kind of like, it's a different thing, right?
You come down here.
Right. Yeah. You come down here and it's like a religion, bro. I've never seen anything like it. I think Max started band camp in June or July. Yeah, different band camp.
Okay.
Jeez, you guys are going to
I would go to
set you up.
I would go to
we set you up on
I
that.
would go.
Yeah.
I heard it. I watched a movie one time about things that happened
That's the type of band camp that I want to go to.
Me too. Yeah.
Right. But, or would have went to. But anyways, I digress. Max goes to state marching competition. They get to play in the Alamo Dome. There's all this. They're projected to finish in the top 5. There's all this. There's like, I think 40 bands there from all around the state of Texas, and only the top 12 go on to the final round. And they were projected to finish in the top 5. It's fantastic. We go out there yesterday morning. The kids go out on the field, 9 o'clock, I think 9:30 in the morning yesterday. Crush it, you know, and it's so fun. And my point of this whole thing is there's terminology in every community. The experience is so similar. Like drag racing to marching band feel like they're a million miles away. But last night, sitting on the couch with my wife after we got home from driving through rural Texas, I was on the phone with Brett Underwood. This is Brett's fault. My wife's pissed at him. She's pissed at me. I was on the phone with Brett, not looking at the GPS. And the next thing I know, I'm rolling up on a stop sign. And I'm like, why? There's no stop signs on I-10. Like, why are we stopping? And I get engrossed in these conversations and whatever. Next thing you know, we're like in rural Texas somewhere, and we went the curvy, windiest way home. No service. We were not prepared for this. Like my wife, my wife and Sophia had already planned out the road trip home. Like, we're going to stop at Buc-ee's in New Braunfels. We're going to go in there, probably spend $700.
Get the emergency snack kit out.
Get a bunch of snacks. We're going to do this. We're going to go there, and we're going to stop here. We're going to stop in Waco.
$700 is the minimum spend at Buc-ee's. It is. Most people
There's
don't
a
know
sign
this.
on the door. Yeah, there's a sign on the door outside of Buc-ee's that says you have to get like 16 brisket tacos and minimum spend is $700. So they were like super excited for this trip home, right? And it's so funny. I feel bad a little, but it was a good learning experience for them both. Like, we did not stop once. I mean, it was classic drag race road trip, like classic leave after work, drive straight there because I got to get back to work in the morning. We left San Antonio and never stopped at a gas station, nothing, until we pulled in the driveway at my house last night. We went, I spent about an hour last night trying to figure out how we went the way we went. Like, I literally was looking at Google Maps going, I have no idea how we ended up in San Saba, Texas, Comanche, Texas. I don't even know these places exist. I thought they were from like John Wayne movies. It's the only time I've heard of these towns, and here I am in them. Anyways, I digress. We don't go to Waco. We don't go to Buc-ee's in New Braunfels. We drive through the country, and it was actually pretty nice. I like those drives. Great roads. You can drive at 80. It's fantastic. But anyways, no service the whole way home. My wife and I sitting on the couch last night as we find out the heartbreaking news that our kids didn't advance to finals. I don't know the math on all this, but it's been like it's been years and years and years. They were projected to finish in the top 5. The kids walked off the field, and they're all saying, again, the drag racing thing, they're all looking at me and they're going, that was like the best run ever. And it's just so funny to hear their terminology, best run ever. So they were all expecting to like for sure be in finals and maybe be in contention to win. Like this, they were thinking that they could compete at the top. Well, come to find out, they end up finishing 13th because they were docked 10 points because a prop had been left on the field. it blended in with the white sidelines. The prop is white, the sidelines are white, and it got overlooked. They were docked 10 points, so they fall from 6th, where they would have been, to 13th, just outside of the finalist bubble. The top 12 teams move on. And in this moment, my wife's teary-eyed. Everybody, all of our local band friends and all the other parents or whatever that are in like our little social circle or whatever are texting one another. Everybody's upset. We're getting texts and calls from kids and everybody's crying. And it was just, I told my wife, like, and I knew I had to be careful because in moments like this, I am bad about taking something that has nothing to do with drag racing and like making it about drag racing, right? And I looked at her and I said,
NHRA may have followed you and dropped the prop on the ground.
I said, oh, those sons of... No, I didn't. I said, it could be, though. Now, looking back on it, I hadn't even considered that opportunity, or that possibility, but it may have been the case. But no.
Did they know about it? Did they know that they left that at the time, or you didn't realize it till you got the scores?
I can't say for certain. Well,
yeah,
that's what we did. My wife and I pulled the video up because they live streamed this stuff. And I got to tell you, another reminder, dude, they did the post-band performance interviews with students were as good as I've seen at any drag race. Like, very well done. After the kids would do their performance, they're like 10 minutes long or whatever, they would bring like a couple of the leader kids to the sidelines, and they had a dude down there with a mic who would interview them like a athlete at halftime. It was so cool. And to see these kids get this experience on that stage was absolutely phenomenal. But there was a prop left, and I don't know for certain, Mike, that they knew. The way everybody reacted, I'm assuming they did not, because this is gonna be funny when I say it was like a shock heard round Bearcat Nation. Like everybody that's a fan and supporter.
What about
of this
the person
deal,
that left the prop? Did they just were they like?
Well, no. This is what I'm going to talk about.
Did they not even realize that they did it?
Yes, that's my understanding. And it's a little lost on me right now. Like, I don't even know who's responsible.
Has this person been like ostracized from the community?
No, he hasn't, or she hasn't. I don't know who it was, but I will tell you, I'm so proud of these kids. And it just reminded me of drag racing, because I think we talk about all the time about how our sport needs more crew members and more invested people, more stakeholders. We need more people involved. We need to grow this community. And it just reminded me of the dynamic that exists with any race team, is that you can have the best tuner, you can have the best equipment, you can have the biggest budget. But if Timmy that helps you check the air in the tires misreads the tire gauge, and one tire's got 18 pounds of air in it and the other's got 8, you're screwed, right? No matter how good your equipment is, no matter how big a budget you've got, no matter how great of a season you've had up until that point, those details matter. And it was just this crushing blow for the entire band community here locally. And to see how gracefully these kids have handled this and the way that they have like banded together, and it's been an incredible thing to see. But I actually looked at my wife, and she's teary-eyed and she's upset and can't believe it. And I said, you're kind of feeling what all of us in drag racing feel. And she's like, it's just so much work. And I said, yeah. And she was, Max gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes to practice, and we're gone all the time, and we're running here and we're running there. And it's like 8 minutes they get to play, and it's all this effort for a few minutes on the field. And I said, you do realize that you're like literally describing drag racing, like travel all over creation, spend all this money, spend all this time, and it lasts 8 seconds. It lasts 6 seconds. But for those 6 seconds, it's all worth it, right? And I remember, and I told Max, and you got to be careful. And everybody, I started in with classic Wes self-help, and I'm going to, coach him through this moment. But I thought, he's not ready to hear some of that, because part of me is like, oh, you didn't win? Good. Now you want to win more, right? Let that fire burn you, and I was going that direction, and then I pulled back. But like I told him, it wouldn't feel so good to win if it didn't hurt so bad to lose. And it's like that moment will be such a powerful experience for these kids moving forward. But it's just funny, because I think a lot of times we feel as a sport like we're on this island and nobody gets us and nobody understands. But it's all relative, right? I mean, I'm sure there's softball parents that feel that way, junior dragster parents that feel that way, volleyball parents and whatnot that feel that way. But it was a cool moment because for me as a husband and a father, like seeing my wife so passionate, like we connected on that. Like I've never seen her care about anything the way she cares about our kids. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable how passionate she is about our kids. And I am too, don't get me wrong, but like quite obviously I'm into a lot of stuff, namely drag racing, my businesses, we've got a lot of stuff going on. Her focus is like so singularly on our kids. It's an incredible thing to see. And I told her, like, seeing you care this much about anything is an awesome thing. But it just reminded me of how important it is to find a way to be a part of a team, find a way to be part of a group that's trying to do something, because this shit is rewarding. Win, lose, or draw, the experience of like going to battle with a group with a common goal. If we had more people, I was thinking about it ever since, and you think about how big sports are in our culture, and that's what we need more of this stuff, not less. I feel like we're in a time where there's so many things to entertain us. There's so many options, right? We can do all these things that we just described virtually, right? You can talk to our friends all over the world face to face. I mean, it's incredible, the technology and the various ways that exist to entertain us and pass the time. But if we can keep people competing, right, and competing in a meaningful way where winners are determined and losers are identified and whatnot, I mean, it's like the basis of so many things that are good in this world, right? And I don't know, it reminded me of how important it is that we continue to foster growth in our sport, especially amongst the young people. And it reminded me of the fact that you don't have to be a driver. Like going back to the Drag Illustrated 30 Under 30, which we're going to unveil in just a few short weeks at the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show in Indianapolis during our what I think has become a fairly well-known press conference at the event. If you want more information, of course, log on to dragillustrated.com and you can read all about it. But the thing I'm so proud about is that it's not just drivers. It's not just the track record holders. It's not just the next big name crew chief that we identify in the Drag Illustrated 30 Under 30. It's the type of people that might have forgot a prop, right? That their contribution may have been on the outskirts, right? Or may have been at a different level than the best known folks. And I'm so proud of like that moment, because I hope it resonates with my son. I hope it resonates with Max, that the details matter, right? And everybody contributes, and we're going to win together and we're going to lose together. And I think in closing, like this whole experience, it's been shocking to me. I'm talking about 13, 14, 15-year-old kids or whatever. No, high school age kids, 14, 15, 16, 17 age kids that have the maturity and have the life experience so early to be able to have a moment like that, but do the hard work to find the good in it. I mean, I just think it's really incredible, and not let it just completely destroy them, and no finger pointing, no blame game. Because I mean, I'm sure everybody here that's been to a drag race, and anybody watching that's been to a drag race, like we've all had that moment, right? Where something didn't go to plan and the first instinct is to say you, right? Or whatever. And I just was so proud of them for collectively rising above that and not taking the easy path and picking someone to blame it on or whose fault it was. And I do think it gave them a little bit of closure that they were able to identify like what went wrong, because I think that would have been horrible, right? If they didn't know, like, why didn't we, like, if there was no scorecard or whatever, if this wasn't a public thing. But anyways, whale of a weekend. And to cap it off with the drive through the country yesterday and the stomachs growling and the I'm hungry and the internet doesn't work, I thought, well, you know what I did? I just turned on the Bellamy Brothers, like my dad would have, and made them listen to the greatest hits of one of the greatest duos in the history of country music. So that was the day yesterday. I just wanted to share with y'all. And that's the show. Thank you, guys. Remember, click. No, I'm just joking. But no, it's a sad night, dude. It's been like a solemn 48 hours, like 24 hours. Like my wife is broken over this deal. It's sad, man. She's super. You guys should check on her. You guys should check on her, man. No, I mean, she's not. I mean, it's just a bummer. You know,
it is good to be involved in something. Like you said, you kind of take it for granted. all of us, we all have our things, right? Racing, sports. We're always talking about these deals, but sometimes you don't have those, and that is a good thing to be a part of. And I think like pandemic too made it so that everybody's doing like solo stuff, and we've made so many things to where you can just do them. Basically, you don't have to go to the office. You don't have to go to a meeting. You don't have to travel. Just fire up your phone or whatever. And it is isolating. So doing something like that and feeling the pain so you can feel the reward is kind of like an underrated thing. No one wants to feel the pain anymore.
And I think that that's what my takeaway was from the whole experience of just being reminded of, there's a lot of ways to be involved. There's a lot of ways to contribute. You don't have to be the kid doing the sax solo to have a meaningful contribution to what happens. And matter of fact, you can be the make or break, And I think that's, I hope that there's more kids out there and more young people that are like looking for someone to go racing with next weekend, maybe this weekend, and recognize that there's value in this experience, even if you're not the one letting off the clutch, even if you're not the one letting off the button or whatever, mashing the gas. Like there's a way, get in where you fit in and find a way to get involved, find a way to get in on a team. And I think that that's something that everybody that has a race team should consider. And I do see that. I see that where teams take people under their wing or kind of bring people in from outside the ropes to the inside and let them be a part of something. And if we were all conscious about that and moving through making decisions week in and week out where we're going to a race or whatever and looking for those opportunities or looking for people to kind of foster and bring up, it will make a difference. It will make a difference over time. It's not something that happens overnight, but we need to get more people on the team. And again, it's a reminder that you don't have to be the front man of the band to make a difference and to be a part of something and to get that feeling. How many times have you guys heard me say right here on this show, like, if you've never been on the golf cart making the ride down the return road or down the stretch of asphalt in front of the grandstands with complete strangers cheering for you and waving and honking the horn of the golf cart, right? Matting the pedal, the little button on the floorboard, right? Honking at
Geo, man. Yellow Geo.
Yeah, honking in the yellow Geo.
Another way to do that.
Kawasaki Bayou is kind of my claim to fame. Kawasaki Bayou is what I typically rode down to the big end after, to go pick up Pops or my uncle or whatever. And if you've not been in that moment where you're all on the golf cart or you're all on the four-wheeler or whatever, high five and falling over top of each other, like a lot of accidents happen because that celebration is so jubilant and rowdy, right? Like I've had plenty of people tell me like, oh, why are you in a cast, Billy? And it's like, well, I was, we won at Darlington and we were riding down to the return road to pick up Terry and I fell off the golf cart. And, it's like that. That's how big of a deal it is. And if you haven't been part of a moment like that, I suggest you try to find a way because it's very similar to one of our guests that we're going to check in with here in just a little while, Elon Werner with Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. The purpose of that bracket challenge and the purpose of all these things that exist in sports, all the sports betting, all the fan duels, all that stuff, it's to enhance the user experience, to get you more invested in the outcome. And that is, it's funny, like my wife is experienced that. She goes, I did not have any idea how much this would hurt, like how much it would hurt and how much I would be affected by how we did. And I said, well, you should just be glad that I haven't spent every dollar we have on drag cars because you would stay perpetually spun out because we would not do that well. No matter how good you do in drag racing, it's oftentimes hard to make that justify that investment. But anyways, man, I just want to share my weekend story with you. I thought it was kind of interesting, man. I haven't seen Mac. We've only talked on the phone and text and stuff. I'm anxious to see how he is. The boys, they'll get home later today from state. Well, what an experience, man. I didn't get to do any of this stuff when I was a kid. I remember going to see Mark Twain Cave in third grade, and that was pretty much in Hannibal, Missouri. And that was pretty much the high water moment for school trips. About an hour away from the crib, whatever. Rode on a bus, stunk like lunch meat. You know what I mean? That was my classic school trip experience. My kids, these kids nowadays, they're like at the Ritz-Carlton on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. That's not true. Did eat some great pizza. Dude, trade shows. I can't believe trade show season is upon us. We stayed at the Marriott and they were having a big convention. And I feel tremendous sympathy for all these people that have to spend like their entire year at trade shows. JT would be dead if you had to go to more than PRI.
Yeah.
Like if you had to do a series of trade show events, I don't know, bro. Like I've got a lot of faith in you, a considerable amount, more than most people.
Yeah,
And
I just do it. Yeah, because I'm just not one of those people that go, well, we ate supper. I think I'll just go to the room now. like what do you do in your room? You just like. I don't know. Like,
yeah, JT's like, well, is there a bar here?
Yeah.
Because if there's not, I'm gonna find one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's typically one within a couple of hours, and JT's willing to make that drive.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
If there's a bar within 2 hours of wherever he's residing, he'll find it.
That's where you meet everybody. That's where you make the best friends anyway.
You do a lot of business at the bar.
Yeah.
And at dinner, I mean, that's there's a whole strategy.
You run into everybody at those places, it seems like.
I've met a lot of high-level, highfalutin guys like in our industry, matter of fact, that really don't spend a lot of time on the SEMA show floor or on the PRI show floor. Like they leverage the opportunity to have all those people in one place, but then they schedule meetings with them either offsite or in a private room.
Yep.
Yeah, dinners. I talked to a guy the other day.
People smoking. Remember, like you go outside and it's kind of
Wyatt Halden, God rest his soul, one of my partners in the magazine back when we started, before I bought him out in like 09 or whenever that was. When was that? 13, actually, I think it was. Anyways, that he made, like most of the deals he made was smoking.
Because you always
standing outside,
talk to each other when smoke or smoke, and then I don't know, and then you end up talking to each other and you see each other a few times. Yeah, it just happened. Maybe
smoking will come back and we can get some more business deals. JT, your sales, I'd like to see you start smoking again.
Okay,
get them sales headed in the right direction. I'm gonna buy you a carton today for PRI. Okay.
Oh boy.
And maybe you could smoke seasonally.
Yeah, during the trade show. That's what Brett does. Brett uses cigars. That's his.
Yeah.
He does. Brett does use cigars. Hey man, it's a solid strategy. I like a cigar. I really do.
Yeah,
Mike doesn't. I tried to get Mike to smoke a cigar in Vegas.
I want to like one, but usually they come at me at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's true. You get a little bit of a track record there, I guess. We got there's some skeletons in that closet, but we'll move on. But no, man, we got a barn burner of a show. There's a lot going on, right? I mean, we've got NHRA Pomona. It's hard to believe the NHRA finals are upon us. I really still struggle to figure out how it's early November. Halloween being behind us, it's such a weird thing. But time flies when you're having fun, they say. And we've got the NHRA finals coming up. Every one of these, short of NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle, we got some real action-packed championship battles. I mean, there's a lot of different outcomes. I'm excited to see what goes on. We had, I don't know, did you guys see the pictures from Import versus Domestic World Cup Finals? Jason Miller's big shindig up at Maryland International Raceway. Yep. Places sold out. Do you guys get the same, like, I don't know, butterflies in your stomach when you see those drone shots? Send me your drone shots. I want to see them. I collect them. The first thing I do when I see a badass drone shot of a drag strip packed to the gills is I just save it. And I don't even know why. I bet I have 1,000 of them on my phone. It just makes me feel good and reminds me of how many people care about this sport and how many people are invested in this sport. And it just, to think about that event going on at the exact same time as the conclusion of the SEMA show out in Las Vegas on the other side of the country that's being attended by tens of thousands of gearheads, right? You've got this huge event that draws people from all points of the globe. Completely on the other side of the country. It's incredible to me, like how much the what's the word, guys? I don't care what anybody's saying about the sport of drag race. Shit's happening out here, man. Yeah. Good things. And I think the same way when you're barbecuing, you've got to be cognizant of where you take the temperature. JT's a chef, a gourmet chef, and he's a. Is it true? Does it matter where you stick that little metal thermometer when you're cooking a steak or a pork loin? Oh, yeah. When you're smoking a pork loin, is it hotter on the edges than it is in the center?
Yep.
You know what? The sport of drag racing shares some similarities to that pork loin that JT's smoking. It's oftentimes hotter on the edges than it is in the center. And I think a lot of people look at our sport and they immediately look at fan turnout, car turnout, sponsor participation, specifically within the confines of the NHRA, right? And they go, oh man, it feels like there's, what's going on? It feels like there's some, something happened or whatever. You got to look you got to be cognizant. You got to be mindful of where you're taking the temperature of our sport.
It's true, because
if you get on the edges, shit's hot.
They'll share a picture or they'll look at a picture and it may be at a downtime, or maybe they're not even running at that time. And they're like, oh, you see nobody's there or whatever. But they weren't there at that, they don't know how good the event was. But they're quick to comment on it a lot of times.
They are, man. And I anticipate, and here's the thing, and this is not a calling out. This is not me scolding anybody. And I want to be mindful of that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're sharing the good news as ferociously as we do the bad. And I know that part of that's human nature. We've talked about that, right? Bad news travels fast, and that happens for a reason. 100,000 years ago or whatever, it was to keep one another safe. If there was a buffalo headed this direction, you better tell everybody, right? Because there was no other way to let them know there's a buffalo headed this way, right? But times have changed, and there's a lot of information out there, and we've got to be mindful that some of these archaic ways of doing things need to evolve, and we need to be a little bit more outward with the good news, because the good news is there's a lot of great things happening in the sport of drag racing. There's a lot of events that are selling out. They're turning people away, especially when it comes to participants. A lot of these big money bracket races sell out. A lot of streetcar takeover. I mean, this is a streetcar roll racing, heads up drag racing for street legal cars. Oftentimes they run out of tech cards. They won't sell any more tech cards, right? Because they want to make sure that they're preserving the experience for all their racers, and you don't have guys getting one run, right? I mean, they're having to turn folks away, and that's happening in a lot of places. So don't let, the social media fodder or something that's sway your opinion of what's happening in the sport, and be mindful of where you're taking the temperature. Because I would argue, as we're going to discuss here throughout the course of the pod, sometimes it's on the edges where things are the hottest. And I would argue that, like right now, no time grudge racing, it's extremely hot. Low prep, no prep, 28, 10, 5 racing, back of the track racing. There's a lot of things that are hot like fire, but they kind of operate on the fringe of our sport. They're not extremely mainstream. So anyways, I think it's just something that we got to be mindful of, because these are high tide moments in the sport of drag race. I want to give a huge shout out and congratulations to Jason Miller and the whole team at Maryland International Raceway. What a weekend, right? There's big news too. Before we dive into this week's guest, we got to talk a little bit about, and this is going to be a theme throughout the show, but I got to go around the room here and get our internal opinion on it before I go outward with it. But it's the probably the most talked about thing I've seen in a little while. More evidence of bad news traveling fast. What do you guys make of the dude riding in the back of the truck at Darlington Dragway, right, during JJ DeBoss's arm drop event at the legendary Darlington Dragway? There's blame to go around, right? I mean, can we all agree that there's like blame to go around here? But I do think that I would love to see if I had one wish on this particular scenario that would be a good news, or it would be an opportunity for like heel to make a babyface turn. It would be cool to see JJ come out and like acknowledge that this was a bad look, a bad idea that happened under his watch, because there's a lot of like, I think that's the play. Like if I'm the crisis management guy and I'm looking for what needs to happen, it would be good to see someone fall on the sword, and it's hard to do, but someone's going to have to go, all right, this, because it's understood that I believe Jeff Miles, the owner of the track, or who's the leaseholder of the track right now, was not at the facility at the time. You'd have to believe that there was someone, but also we talked about this, Mike, you've been to some of these events, and I think we've all, let's be honest, these TV reality stars, they've reached celebrity status in our space. And I don't know that I could task the kid running the water box volunteering, right? Or getting paid an hourly wage. I don't know that I can task him with going toe to toe with JJ DeBoss, the guy that's putting on the race, right? So, there's a lot of blame to go around, and it's an interesting deal that I've likened throughout the course of the last 24 hours to shooting ranges allowing people to stand by the targets, right? So their friends could prove how good a shot they are, right? That ain't going to work, right? Because it may seem fine, like, oh man, it shot the apple right off my buddy's head, right? Look at me.
Yeah.
But until you sneeze or you miss, right? And the headline is damning at the bare minimum. And I think we have to be mindful of that.
I think
But
that
Mike,
is probably kind of the problem, is that you see it's a very small percentage of people that actually think that it was like a good idea and think outside the box. And I've seen some stupid posts though about it, like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, well, but it's that small percentage there that may try it. And that's what's alarming, right?
Well, there's also like the effect that we contribute to here is that you make it part of the conversation, right? True. So now, like, we have to accept responsibility that we're talking about it, and for us, it's hard not to talk about it. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, I've had as many texts about this as I did Bob Tasca's run getting DNQ'd last week. And right? I mean, I don't
know about yours, but they're not good texts.
No, man, people are really up in arms about this. And it's part of it, I think, is people are protective of our sport, protective of this community. And I mean, not too long ago, we know what it's like to have tracks closed down. We know what it's like to have events taken away from, forces that we are beyond our control, a global pandemic most recently, right? So I think people are hypersensitive to the notion of tracks going away or a facility closing or struggling to operate. So I do think, and I'm willing to fall on the sword right here, that I do think that, like, JJ DeBoss, he's the one who has the most reach. He's got the most out of everybody involved in this deal. He's likely got the most influence. And I think that I'm totally on board with the notion that there's responsibility of the track and whatnot. I'm just saying, if there was a way to kind of make this whole thing happen and move forward or whatever and put it behind us, I think it's going to require somebody like stepping up and being the one that lays on the grenade personally, because it's a grenade. There's no doubt it's a grenade, right? Like, how else? It's a bad news story for sure.
Bad luck for
right?
the sport for sure.
Let me pay some bills real quick. Guys, I want to remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and make sure you tell them we sent you. We got a special guest joining us today, and it feels like it's long overdue, so I apologize to everybody involved, because it's undeniable that one of the hottest things happening in all of drag racing, top to bottom, left to right, sea to shining sea, one of the hottest communities in all of drag racing is the No Time Heads Up Grudge movement, and we've got one of the major players in this space on the line right now, a guy I've been friends with since back to the beginning. Matter of fact, one of the very, very first races that I ever covered for Drag Illustrated, ever. George Hill's Outlaw Nationals at Huntsville Dragway, a collab with Johnny Finn and the guys at Orska, Mike Hill, Jack Barfield, Steve Kirk. Every big name in small tire racing was there. Insane thinking back about it. But this young man put his Mustang in the winner's circle and etched his name in the history books, and immediately followed that up by being on the cover of Drag Illustrated magazine. Let's give it up multiple times now. Let's give it up for the one, the only Mike the Hitman Hill. Mike, what's up, brother? You doing good?
Hey, Wes. How's everybody doing?
Good,
yeah, we're better now. Better now. If I was any better, I'd be you, buddy. So
right.
Tell us. So this has been the talk of the internet like the last 10 days. I think we all owe you, like, let's give it up. Congratulations, man. Yeah. Way to end the year for the No Time scene. Right. Mike Hill's legendary end of the year shootout down at South Georgia Motorsports Park under new ownership, doing big things, exciting times. Kind of give us the synopsis or kind of the overview of what this event represents in the No Time community, Mike.
Like I say, it's my year finale. Something I've worked on for years. I probably started the year finale race in 2009 or so, 8 or 9 when I was doing that Carolina Dragway every year. But it was more then was just a bunch of grudge races just meeting at one place. We everybody came there and it was just no big shootouts. We might have had. That was back when Stevie and Phil had the back half car, the shadow. We were doing stuff like that, but basically everybody was just showing up to grudge each other. Now we've kind of grown it to a big 4840 shootout. That was just, the kind of grudge stuff it didn't die, but it slowed down a lot about, guys coming in and grudging. So kind of had to get creative and keep our fans happy. At the end of the day, my deal was like fans were coming in and to a lot of races, and you may have 20 locked in grudge races that didn't get off, and at the end of the night, you got, some fans leaving that's disappointed and say, well, hey man, we paid $20 or $25 to come see this race and it didn't happen, and a lot of it don't happen. And, so me, myself, I had to find another way to not be that person, to make sure, I gave them something. And like we consider grudge racing a bonus, most of my stuff is surrounded around shootouts, and the grudge racing, like I said, is a bonus. So, and we
don't you think that's like a successful model? Because that was one of my, like, to be honest, back in so when I met you, it was 2005. And then we started running around together to all the Orska races together, doing a bunch of that stuff. And then you started putting on your own races, like you said, in like 08, 09 or whenever. But one of the issues, I think I went with you to Macon. I think it was Macon National Dragway. I went to one, and that's what happened. There was all these grudge races supposedly locked in, and then like none of them happened. And I remember that was like my impression, like, oh man, like this is awesome. All the pre-talk and Willie Dog's radio show and all these different things. But then if the race didn't get off, it did. It kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. I'm curious, how did you get everybody to bite on the shootout? Like, what started the no time shootout movement? Like, how did you get there? Did you just say, hey, let's all get to the same spot and then all throw our money in a hat and we'll race for it? Well,
like a lot of the grudge races were back when we first started. Everybody was on, a lot of the small tire guys was on a 28 or 29 slick. And actually that was the name of the shootout when I first started. It would just say 28 or 29. That's just the name of the shootout with the tire size, we started out there, and it just kind of grew, it just kind of kept growing. And then when the radio got popular, we switched over to, start saying 28, 275 and 29, 315. But like I said, it started off as 28 and 29 shootout for me. And it was like I say, it was because most of the grudge races already had that tire on. So we just like, okay, man, instead of concentrating on, the fans coming in just for a grudge race, I'm going to just try to give these guys a free entry shootout or a low entry shootout, so that's kind of where I started at and got it going. It took off pretty good with the shootout stuff. And
how do you police the no time thing? Like I'm going to bounce around here a little bit, and forgive me, this is just kind of how my brain works, but I was looking at the flyer for your proposed deal, and I don't know, we're kind of probably participating in some breaking news here, but on the heels of a successful season for yourself and a lot of these no time 4840 bore space shootouts, you're going to put together a series for next year. Right. And I was going through the rules and looking at it, and there's an interesting one there where it says like must be a no time car, no time shown in that like calendar year in the last year or something. Can you just talk a little bit about how much not having the scoreboards on contributes to the success of what you're doing? Because we've actually talked right here on this very program over the years that not having the scoreboards on, there's some power to that. Like nobody gets, nobody's the last qualifier. Nobody has to have everybody know that they've got the slowest car on the property. I've had a lot of promoters come on here and talk about the advantages of racing without the clocks on. But then there's a whole world of people that we've also talked to that feel like, oh, how can you have a drag race and not know what the cars ran? Right. So I'm just curious, like, how do you, like, what's your take on that whole situation and how do you manage it?
I think that's the biggest part that makes it interesting is the curiosity of it. Nobody really knows. So you can't really, you can't guarantee that this car is faster than the car that he's finna race because you didn't see it last round. You didn't see like it, Donald's race or Clash race where he just went 450 and the other car didn't go but 480. So you don't know that. You just assuming that this car, it's always an assumption in our world that this car is faster. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Myself, that's kind of how I look at it.
And everybody thinks they know what something runs, right? I mean, it's like, it's so Absolutely. Funny. Like, Mike and I joke about that all the time. It's like some of the best passes don't look fast. You know what I mean? Like you'll be surprised by it, right? And a lot of people seem to translate, at least the naked eye. Like if you're using your eye as a time slip, you seem to want to, we all seem to want to see one that looks like it's on the ragged edge, right? This thing's dancing around out there. And you're like, oh man, that's a bad son of a bitch. But then, it's probably not made a great run. So personally, Mike, I'm a big supporter of what you do. If I could get my World Series of Pro Mod guys to bite on running without the clocks, I would, because I think that there's big mystery and allure, but it is a tough sell. I mean, to the hardcore traditional drag racing fan that's been going to NHRA national events or PDRA races or Ducks races, and they're used to seeing these crazy numbers and everybody going up there and hitting the long ball, trying to blow the scoreboards down. It's a different deal, but I think it's interesting because all these things considered, and I put this on Facebook recently this week, I think it's probably the most passionate fan base that exists in all of drag racing. Like, there's a lot of big time, small tire, no prep guys. There's a lot of big fans of radial racing and pro mod racing, strong segments. Obviously, nitro racing has a huge following. Pro stock racing's got a cult following. But as far as like jumping out of your seat, cheering, chasing the cars down the track, like you don't see that level of enthusiasm anywhere else. And personally, I absolutely love it. Like, in a world where everybody's worried about everything, seemingly, it's nice to see some people like consistently let it all hang out. You know what I mean? And I think our whole sport would be better if people showed how much they cared, because this stuff's a lot of work, eh? I mean, if you're not excited when you win a drag race, I mean, you probably weren't that involved. You know what I mean? Like, you probably didn't have a hand in the outcome. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick. Like, Carpenter, like, I want to get Mike's he lives out in your neck of the woods. He lives on the East Coast. He's, he's been to Carolina Dragway, Piedmont, all these places. Do you agree with me? Like, when you look at everything that we're covering right now, I think we're on track to go to 100 drag races this year at Drag Illustrated collectively. Don't you agree that this is probably like the hottest thing happening? I mean, Big Jake's race down here, your race, they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was going to ask Mike that earlier, I don't think I've ever seen so much coverage or talk about your year-end event as I did this past weekend. It seems like it kind of went through a lull, like you said, and then now it's back and you've got a lot of participation. The 4.840 thing really seems to be what's driving a lot of it. So, and I mean, that was going to be my question, is what do you think brought it back or has allowed it to maintain and really, in my opinion, at least from like a mainstream drag racing perspective, be more noticeable and more on the map than it ever has been?
I mean, like I said, I think main thing is, like I said, it's guaranteed our fans some good action. It's brought some, I don't know how you use the word, familiar faces and people that's big in the game, to our racing part, like to that group of cars. We got the Ricky Stanbros, like the car they call the Salty B, and Marcus Burke with the new John Gotti. We got, Mario and Herb and them that was with the Uncle Sam cars. You got the Jesse James. I mean, we got
the names of the cars. That's one. I mean, I saw Beth Dutton out there this past weekend. I mean, the names are awesome, and that's something that we are missing in other forms of drag racing. And they really lean into the names, and like you said, the actual driver names. I mean, we had J.R. Gray out there. We had McCain. His whole crew, that there
you've
are
got
definitely
some big
names.
vocal characters right now too. Like you've got some people that are willing to play the game, because JT talks about that all the time, that like you can point to a lot of stuff with radial racings, like the way it's ebbed and flowed, but I don't know that anything has contributed to that, wherever it's at. I mean, everybody has a different opinion, but they've lost some star power. You know what I mean? They don't have as many of the big names that they used to have. Like you said, the familiar faces that people kind of started to follow or fall in love with or love to hate or root against. You know what I mean? And that's clearly what you guys have going right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was, like I said, we had the JR Grays, like the big people, Phil Schulz and Jeffrey Barkers, everybody out there with us this weekend. We had Kenny Hubbard, all the big name tuners that you would normally see at a big radio race or wherever, they were all at the No Time race this weekend, surrounding around, working on some of these cars and helping. And like I said, man, it's all made it huge, and 4.840 is just hot, man. And like, even what I like to now is like when we first started, it was like TRE had the big engine, big 4.840 pack. And what makes me proud now is to see people now, like, we got the Pat Muses, we got Gene Fulton, we got the Charlie Bucks, all building new combos for this class now. And man, it just shows me that it's being paid attention to a lot by a lot of people now. So
I think that the 4840, for those that don't know, or some of our casual fans or wives or whatever that are paying attention or following along, that refers to the bore space of the engine. And 4.840 inches is the factory bore space of a big block Chevy, which for the longest time, like all the nitrous guys on, in the game were running some ever increasing. It was 500 some odd cubic inches, 600 some odd cubic inches, 632, 706, right? And it's just continued to evolve. But it feels like there's been some classes on the East Coast. Wasn't Renegade at Big Dog a 4840 class as well? Like single system 4840 I think it might have been as well. But my point is that the notion is to kind of keep the cost in check, keep the 900,000 cubic inch engines out, the latest, greatest, keep guys from going out and building their own engine program, buying CNC machines or teaming up with some engine builder. How much do you think that engine platform and trying to keep this? I mean, I know heads up racers going to find a way to continue to spend more money. They will crawl across broken glass to spend more money. But I'm curious, how much do you think the engine combination, kind of keeping that deal in check, has created this environment we have right now?
I think it helped a lot. Like I said, we even came up with a deck height rule for the 4840. You can only be 11,700 max. So, and we actually built the tool that we kind of surprised everybody with last year that they didn't know was coming, because nobody felt like, well, they can't measure it. They've got no way to measure it. Because at one time we had a couple of races, you have a tech man that come in and he's down there with his tape measure trying to measure deck height and just kind of get an idea. And everybody knew it couldn't be accurate. So last year at the finale for the $50,000 race, we kind of had a tool designed and made that bolts onto the block and measures up. And it was kind of a shocking point to everybody. Everybody had to pull their starters off to get to it.
This was big talk. I remember this. This was big talk last year. Yeah.
And it was shocking. But like, even me and Phil Schuler talked about it the other day. It's like, man, everybody's now has got the same thing. It's just, they got the same bore space. They got the same deck height. So we don't allow, basically 3 forward gears. We don't allow the Brunos and the Liberties and it was more of a cost thing. And we didn't have anybody competing with Brunos or Liberty 5-speed. So we as a group decided, like, well, let's just eliminate it. That way, if one person comes out here and spends $30,000 on the Liberty and he goes win 2 races, every other racer don't feel like he's got to go spend $30,000-$40,000 and buy a Liberty. So we kind of eliminated while we was ahead. So, and we felt like it kept our roof pretty simple. I
got to tell you, Mike, like that's the shit. That's what's happening in our sport that makes me excited for like everybody that loves to lay awake at night, cooking up whatever's wrong or what issue exists, and of which there are plenty. I love that we've got some new promoters, and you're no sort of new promoter, but there's a new generation of promoters in the game that are proactive, that are looking for solutions before there's a problem, because historically our sport's been really retroactive. And to your point, like to follow that story, the typical arc, the typical narrative is exactly what you said. What's a good Josie Wales shows up with a 7-speed in it, blows the scoreboards down, wins 2-3 races in a row, and now everybody's got to go buy that setup. And it perpetuates itself over time. And you're right, like, hey, let's just eliminate that from the get-go, and before we have anybody make that big investment, let's just prevent it. And I just give you a lot of kudos for it, man, because we need more of that in the space, not less. And that's an exciting thing for the sport of drag racing, and it will prolong its lifespan. I mean, you don't have to look very hard or be some sort of like drag racing historian to recognize, like, you can see the points when these things go out of control. I remember when Pro Extreme got to that point that they were changing blower belts every run. And I thought, I know it's not a gazillion dollars. It's $500-$600 belt, right? But still, what this indicates is very bad. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're going with this, is that we're creating things that are completely disposable, and we can't go there, because I would point to the engine package, the rule package, above all else, as what's keeping no time racing rocking and rolling right now, specifically the 28-10-5 or your type of shootouts with the 4840 bore space deal. So tell me real quick, and I appreciate you joining us today, man. Like I said, it's been a hot minute. It's been too long, matter of fact.
Right. No doubt.
It's crazy. I'm curious on a couple things. First off, well, you know what? I'm going to back up. Are you surprised this small? What do you make of the radial, the prep stuff? Because you've seen it all. Like you've seen it from Brainerd Optimist Dragway, 10.5W cars, wheelie bars, the stock front frame rails, stuffing big nitrous engines in them. You've seen the prep go to the moon. Now we see the prep going back the other way. I know your events are obviously sticky track situations, radial prep, but what's your kind of take on that whole deal, the tire size and how this community's kind of ebbed and flowed? Because it seems like we're seeing the no prep stuff's bringing small tire slick racing back. Your event is obviously still, front ends drilling into the ground and radial tire stuff. So I'm just curious, what do you make of this whole, how it's kind of come and gone? There's been a couple of cycles here, it seems like. Hey guys, the Wes Buck Show each and every week is brought to you by way of FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with Flow Racing. The world leader in sports live streaming, Flow Racing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events like Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy, and Sweet 16, every stop on the PDRA and NMCA tours, Funny Car Chaos World Cup Finals, Streetcar Super Nationals, the upcoming World Series of Pro Mod and Pro Superstar Shootout, as well as many, many others. Personally, Flow Racing is a fixture in my life. I'm able to follow along with multiple racing events from the comfort of my own home or while I'm out on the road. The platform provided by Flow Racing is changing drag racing for the better, and there's no limit to the good they can do. So log on to flowracing.com today and join the movement.
I mean, I got mixed thoughts on it. I used to, like I said, when it first started the radios, I had my down parts where, like I said, you couldn't race. The down part, like, it's hard to race when it's hot. I mean, that's, to me, is like you got to almost wait or have a scheduled event in the right part of the season, or you got to be at a facility that has no curfew, because, I mean, if you try to race 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the day, it's just everybody's out here having a burnout contest. So, and like I said, for me as a promoter, man, the one of the biggest downfall of radio racing for me is cost. I mean, cost, glue, the amounts of glue we have to use is unreal, and that hurts. Me, I have to kind of watch expenses a lot, because of that. And that, like I said, I wish the slick thing I wish it would come back around a little bit. I think it would help cost, but like I said, nobody wants to slow down, so it's going to be that's going to be the hardest part. Ain't nobody going to want to back up or slow down and get away from the radio, because they've seen these fast numbers. They've seen how fast this tire can go, and now they have to reset the cars up and all this stuff. I don't see where it may end at anytime soon, though. But, so.
Do you think? What do you make of like staying in? Do you feel like some of your success, or how do you feel about kind of staying in your lane, like out there on the East Coast and really across the country right now? Back of the track stuff is popping off. The low prep, no prep, small tire stuff. I mean, down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it would appear that there is a no prep 10.5, 28 10.5 race 2 or 3 nights a week. It seems like. I mean, you can race those cars anytime. What do you make of the no prep, back of the track stuff? I mean, is that on your radar at all, or like I said, are you trying to stay true to what your community of racers expects from you?
No, I have no interest in the no prep stuff. I really just, like I said, I concentrate on my stuff, and actually a couple of years ago, I was like trying to figure out, like, man, I'm gonna give myself 3 or 4 more years and be done with promotion. But now, like the 4840 stuff, we doing the 4840 and the Extreme 28 stuff getting back hot. I'm like, well, I don't know. I ain't got that 2 or 3 year thing no more. I'm just kind of like, don't know when, because I see something that I like. I mean, in the 4840, we run 4840 during the year. Sometimes we run 5-inch and under classes. The Extreme 28, they're pretty hot now, man. And I'm going to just keep working. Like I said, I'm going to keep grinding on the 4840. And we actually doing 4840, mixing the 4840 small block boost this coming year. So they'll be a part of our deal also. And that's what we're trying to do with the series, is like a 5 race. We're only trying to do like 5 races, with the 4840 small block boost, not because we got people so scattered out, and, do like 5 races, then use my year in finale. That's where we're kind of, let everybody know who won, or however you do it there. But I mean, that's just my thing. I don't want to have something every other week. We're trying to do.
I think you're smart, man. I mean, you're doing everything you said. Like a promoter, I think could take notes. I mean, caring about the fan experience first and foremost. That's not something that we hear that much, to be honest. I mean, that's music to my ears that you even care what's going on. Right. As far as how your fans feel about the show, and I support that. I mean, I think we're big fans of what you're doing, Mike. Was curious about the series because typically, and I think you're on the right side of this, because it seems like historically, I've argued that I almost think they waited too long to do a radial tire series. Like, I think that deal, I'm a big fan of it, obviously, and I think it's a successful series right now. But I think the community was clamoring for a points championship, and it was a little late to happen. I think this format, doing it now while you guys got all this momentum and then not oversaturating it, because that was my concern, is that you'd say, well, we got 11 races scheduled for next year. And I'm like, oh, no. But no, that's a very manageable schedule. So whenever you do this, will you go to the same tracks? I mean, you kind of have a network. What tracks are on your radar for 24?
Well, basically, like for the series, I got my own schedule that I do, but I'm gonna do the 4840 stuff kind of separate. Like, we basically start talking about starting at Steele, Alabama International on March 15th, 16th, and making that the first one. But Steele, Alabama, Darlington Dragway, Orangeburg, South Carolina, which is South Carolina Motorplex, and my finishing one is probably what I'm thinking about is Middle Georgia Motorsport Park, with Dave Flurry. And then basically, I'm not making them like my races. I'm taking people that's involved in running the 4840, and some of those guys are promoters also. So we're using some of their events and just having them put up the money, have somebody keep up with all the points deal, and that way it ain't just all about me. It's about the people that's involved in the group too. So.
You're speaking my language, man. I mean, that's so much to play, because there's so many good events that already exist, and it is a concern. I mean, for anybody that really cares about the ultimate end, the end game here, what happens in our sport, you don't want to have to make racers choose, make fans choose. And when you identify these already existing fantastic races and just partner with them, I talked about this last Wednesday on the show, was collaboration happens at the top, competition happens at the bottom. And I just think that kind of collaboration is what will take our sport to whatever proverbial next level is out there for us. And I applaud you for it. So closing notes, and I'm just curious, this is a little bit of a personal question, but I'm just curious how you feel about letting people ride in the back of wheel standing pickup trucks.
That's a no in my world for sure.
I'm just playing, buddy. I had to ask. Everybody's a little different on it. Tomato, ketchup, mustard. I don't know. Let them ride in the back. Don't let them ride in the back. So I was wondering if Mike Hill does ride-alongs at the end of the year finale.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. But Wes, I definitely enjoyed today, man. And like I said, I've been kind of feeling left out. I used to be in Drag Illustrated. I used to feel like I was there every month or every issue back in the day when I was racing. I said, man, I stopped racing. I don't get to make Drag Illustrated anymore. So
we're gonna make that. We're gonna write that wrong. It's like there's so much going on. I mean that when I say it. There's so many incredible races happening that I tell people about that all the time, and it's the best problem in the world to have, right? It's a problem I'm so happy to have, because I'd rather have way too much to do than not enough. But it is tough because, when just this past weekend, it's like SEMA, one of the biggest events happening in our entire racing community, the automotive aftermarket, is the same weekend as import versus domestic World Cup finals up at, Jason Miller's big party at Maryland. It's like there's so many races going on simultaneously, so many big things happening, especially when you get here into record setting season, which is like our favorite time of the year. It gets October, November, and I'm ready to be at the drag strip all day, every day. Let's just stay out there at the spot. But Mike, congrats on all your success, brother. Let's stay in touch. I'm glad we connected, and the squad will roll up on one of your spots next year. We're coming to one of these. We're coming to one of these no time races. Awesome. All right.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great one.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, give it up, guys. Mike the Hitman Hill, man. He's still programmed in my phone as Hitman. The other day I was going to text him, and I went to type in Mike Hill, and I'm like, why do I not have his phone number? And I go, oh yeah, there's only 2 people in my phone with nicknames. This is a big one. the Hitman, and the Iceman. Mike Hill and Shannon Jenkins. So you're in solid company, my friend. Stay out of trouble. We'll see you at the racetrack. All right. You coming to PRI?
I got to start coming for sure now that we're trying to do this series. I got to figure how they have that no guts, no glory race at the same weekend. I got to figure out. And speaking of Iceman been to my last two 480 championship races. The last two, he was there last year, and he can tell you the excitement. I was amazed how excited Shannon was being there. He was like, man, where can you go race for this type of money every other weekend? And he was super excited about it, man. And he had a lot of fun there.
I'm smoking like Shannon right now. He covers his cigarette like that. I love the way he don't want it to blow out, right? He's worried. He's keeping it lit. Well, he's probably worried about his awesome ice. Yeah, they don't blow out. I'm just
Wes. I walked up to him one day. He had a cigarette in his hand. And I reached up and grabbed it out of his mouth. And man, he ought to have seen that look he gave me.
Oh, he's my favorite person on the planet. He's what a guy, man. Well, I'm glad to hear it. You tell him hi next time you see him. They got Speed Tech rocking and rolling back again, man. They're doing things down there. Wayne's down there.
That's kind of their market too, is that 4840 stuff. And Shannon was a bad man with a 4840.
Right. Yep, he's actually helping on one. So no doubt.
Well, that's the one I'm betting on. All right, guys. Hey, thanks, Mike. We appreciate you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Y'all take care. All right, bye-bye.
All right, guys, let me take a second to remind you all that the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Hey, well, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the pod. Welcome to the program. The one, the only Elon Werner, founder and the brilliant mind behind.
Hey,
go ahead.
I got a prop. I'm just
going to
hold this.
I love it.
While we
was
do
on
this.
that was probably one of my best intros of the last 6 months, and you just nuked it. Just nuked it. But I'm glad you showed listen, there's no chance Mike's going to let an opportunity to flex.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's right. No.
So do you have any other trophies you'd like to break out real quick, Mike?
I will. I got a couple more good ones back here, but this one is the most relevant to today's conversation.
It's most recent.
It's nice, man. This is a nice little deal you guys do, Elon. And you get, so how does it work though? After the race, you got these ready to go.
Yep.
And then you shove these in front of each winner's as they come up to do their interview or something.
It's so funny now that Gage Herrera is just conditioned to walk into the press room and immediately look for the plaques.
Yeah, I got to sign.
He's like,
some of these plaques.
hang on, Josh, Allie, let me knock these out real quick, and he just bangs them out. Erica's getting knows the program, but everybody has been super cool about it. I have like a little corner of usually the press room where I have them kind of laid out. And I usually wait until the end. And I was like, hey, this is for Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. And they all are like, oh, this is really cool. Sign them and then kind of get them on their way. But then I package them up, bring them home, and then I get the addresses from my tech guy. And they usually go in the mail a day or two after the race. So people have them by, within a week of the race. Because that's just one thing that I'm just super particular about is I want to get the prizes in people's hands as quickly as possible, quite honestly, so they know it's a legit deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
if you're not doing like a monetary prize, this is really one of the cooler things that you can get. And I think doesn't like the overall winner of the event get like a bigger one that's signed by
the overall champion. Hang on one second.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I love this. We're getting props out.
I think you went to get a dolly to grab it.
That would be hilarious if it rolls back into the room and it's like it's the size of a satellite dish from the mid 90s.
It is nice.
I've seen the belt.
Yeah, but
here we go.
The belt weighs probably
11 pounds.
It's heavy. It's a legit, like you can see like the thickness of the metal, but
and that's real gold, right?
It is actually real gold. You'll be able to melt this down.
Yeah.
And
so that thing, I think retail on that thing's like, how heavy you think it is? 11 pounds? It's like probably like $80,000.
$80,000.
Hey, JT's got one that's got
or the largest payout in top sportsman history.
I one time jumped off the top of a bar, Elon, and hit someone in the head with one of those. I mean, I was kind of joking, but it cut him pretty bad.
Yeah, I went full. They had different sizes. I went the full Skandar Akbar weight.
Hell yes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You need that.
JT's got one that's a fanny pack cooler.
Oh, yeah, I got
it's a
that.
fanny
That
pack
with you?
cooler, a championship belt combo.
Yeah. So they get there's a champ belt and there's a runner-up belt. So the two top finishers. So I actually have the overall leaderboard. So breaking news: we're doing double points for the World Finals for Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. So
This is breaking. This is big news.
yes, double points.
Oh, you're putting on your promoter hat right here. I
And
love
now,
it.
so the release hasn't even gone out yet. Double points, and so right now we have. I also love all the crazy names people have come up with. So I call Alan Johnson Nitro Jesus because you bring him in to resurrect your Top Fuel program.
Yeah, well,
So Melanie Johnson, his daughter, her name in Drag Race Bracket Bonanza is Nitro Jesus Jr.
it's classic, man.
And I saw
love
that.
people
I saw
are
that the
so
first
fired up
race,
about it.
and I laughed so hard. I texted her and said, "If nothing ever becomes of Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza, the fact that we now threw Nitro Jesus Jr. into the universe makes it all worth it."
I tend
do
to
you know
agree.
who these people are,
I don't-
like by their names?
I could look, but I just know, have no idea who Flusher is, who's currently the overall champion. I don't know who Jay is. I think I know who Pato is, but I'm not sure. Dinsey is actually Dave Dinsmore.
yeah, I would think so. That one's pretty obvious.
I don't know who
Mike,
Nate
what, is your
Personality
name like
is.
Mike Carpenter, or did you pick
Yeah,
something?
it's
Okay.
super generic. I didn't realize it was going to be, flashed across leaderboards all the time.
But
or I would have.
there's header fire. I mean, it's been very interesting to just see everybody's names. I appreciate the Drag Race Bracket Bonanza community. We have not had to, there have not been any offensive names. We have some blockers in there that so you just can't be,
Give me a
MF
sec.
or 69 or whatever. But
JT will fix that later today.
Yeah, he's gonna do
It's
that.
early. It's
Um,
early.
It was funny when I was talking to my web guy and he was like, "What about these?" And then I basically used every curse word spelled backwards. And he was like, "Well, I don't understand who's Cuff, KCF." And I was like, "Okay, it's the F word spelled backwards." I go, "You need to know these degenerates that I'm dealing with here. They will."
Yeah,
So no,
we'll find a way to be bad.
It's been a really cool process. The last race coming up this weekend, we're already starting to make it better for 2024. We'll have an app next year. The website will be even more. I think I want it to look like when you go to the college basketball website in March, you go to the NFL playoff contests, that it just has that look, has the stats, has pictures. So, I mean, the whole goal, we've talked about this all the time, Wes, is I want to make the tent bigger. I want to get more people that just have a casual familiarity with what drag racing is involved. Give them a reason to watch a race or to come to a race. And we've already seen that just anecdotally from people that started testing Drag Race Bracket Bonanza back at the Western Swing that are now avid NHRA followers that are watching on TV, that are following the sport, that are texting me when Josh Hart punches out Leah Pruitt in the first round and are like, "Well, my bracket's junk." And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. That's what I want, is people following the sport. And it's funny, Hank, who works with the Jumbotron for the races, I'd met him a couple times, but he stopped me in the Sinclair gas station in Vegas before the race on Friday. And he's like, he just walks by me at the Diet Coke refrigerator. He's like, "Hey, I want to tell you, man." He goes, "I love Drag Race Bracket Bonanza." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I play it all the time. I play with my dad." He goes, "I'm in the TV truck doing the video screens between rounds on Sunday, and I'm checking my brackets." He goes, "I never kept up with the races round by round before until this thing came out."
That's awesome.
Hang it up, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being serious. Like, that is
Yeah.
like I obviously understand you're looking to achieve scale, and there's obviously a lot of objectives to reach in the future, but that's the conversation that you want to have. Like, I know that feeling of like hearing it click or hearing someone have the experience that you were hoping that they would have. And I congratulate you, man, because I know there's few things as validating as that for an entrepreneur is solving the problem, you know? I mean, like, yeah, there was the problem, looking for ways to to create a deeper, a more robust experience for our fans. And you've achieved that. And I got to be honest, like looking around our space, I mean, I think you've really, it's pretty significant, the scale it's reached already, and just the overall enthusiasm. Like I see a lot of people posting about it. I mean, look at Mike. I mean, he couldn't get that freaking plaque out quick enough.
Oh, he had it in his pocket.
And he carries it around.
Yeah. And what I like about we're going to do the plaques again. Will probably be very similar to that, but I like the fact that they are all one of a kind. Like Woody won Top Fuel in Reading. And I had Doug Coletta sign the plaque. Doug Coletta, well, I guess this was Charlotte. I had him sign it. Doug Coletta, number 50, because that was Doug's 50th win.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to go to that next level. If something significant happens, it's going to be memorialized on that plaque to a fan. So that just creates more, I think, connectivity, more value. But like, the very first race, U.S. Nationals, who'd have thought Ron Capps was going to win Funny Car? Well, the guy that won Funny Car, his plaque was signed by Prudhomme and Capps.
I was just getting ready to ask that. Okay,
and then the overall winner was like Prudhomme, Capps, Antron. That's just a cool piece of racing memorabilia to just kind of have for, playing a cool game. And it'll continue to be free. It will continue to have kick-ass prizes. We'll probably even have some more prizes next year because first of all, let me just say right now, if you're listening to this and you haven't signed up, please sign up at dragracebracketbonanza.com. This is entry-level fantasy sports. If you don't know anything about brackets, ask your friends. But I would love to get as many people playing this last race so we can continue we've been growing every race. We made a big leap at Vegas because NHRA let me get involved and use some of their assets, which was huge for us. But I want to continue that growth. So when I go into PRI and start talking to potential advertisers, partners, they can see, okay, this was 7 races with no start point. It is really easy to do. You can do it, sign up anytime. You just we fill out the ladder first round for you. You pick your winner all the way to the end and then lock it in. So
you got to do it Saturday after
when qualifying closes,
Sunday before elimination.
Correct.
Starts.
So we got a West Coast race. So everybody that's on the 11 a.m. Pacific. So if you're on the East Coast, you got until nearly 2:00 to fill it out. And we overcame kind of one of our first big. We've had a lot of hurdles, but the Tasca height situation in Vegas was just something we're dealing with that, and luckily we dealt with pretty quickly, in that we always wait for the official ladder from the NHRA. We manually input that in, and then it goes live shortly after that. Well, then, as we all know, 70 minutes after that, they changed.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, they changed. You haven't heard about that? Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's a real one-off. It doesn't happen very often.
Don't go down that hole.
It's very rare for the NHRA to have a rules situation or anything like that. It hardly ever happens.
Yeah, super rare lately.
Super rare. So that in the first, also is just like our biggest race had the more NHRA publicity behind it. And in that first hour and a half, we had over 400 ladders filled out, which was like massive for us. We had to call my IT guy and basically say, this happened. How do we fix it? And he jumped into action. He basically pulled those brackets out of the group, reset the ladder, and kind of froze. There's like a 20-minute window where no one could do anything. He went through, we're on social media saying, hey, NHRA changed qualifying. We're working on it. We're able to adjust the other brackets with minimal headache. I think only one person kind of got their bracket jacked up, and then we're able to go right back into live action.
Speaking of NHRA, what's their reaction been to this? And you actually mentioned a minute ago that they let you sort of piggyback on something. You didn't really elaborate as far as what they allowed you to do as far as promotion, but what's been their reaction to it? And are they keeping tabs on it as it grows and that whole deal?
I think, they have some things in the works. They're working on gambling, betting with FanDuel or whoever, and that's a totally separate deal than what I'm doing. So there's a little bit of an education process that I'm not in that space. They are understandably protective of their data, elapsed times, all those things. And I think in order for betting to work for an HRA, they have to plug into that system so they can get the instantaneous results. I don't need that. I just need like the round to be over and I can manually input the results. I can have a guy watching NHRA TV and do it, but I just do it because I already do it. So at first they were really taking a wait and see approach. They didn't do anything to throttle me other than me pushing the envelope of trying to find ways to promote it and bumping up against some of their rules when they're trying to protect their assets. I get it. But people were coming to me asking, hey, we love this game. How do we promote it? And some of them were like, hey, we have this booth at the race. We'd like to put signs up in our booth. Well, understandably, a lot of those booths don't have pass-through rights. And that's really inside baseball stuff. You guys understand that just because someone buys a 10 by 10 booth, they can't then sublease it necessarily to somebody else. So we ran into things like that. But ultimately, kind of coming out of the Dallas race, all the track operators have been awesome. Chris Blair at St. Louis, they've been doing social media posts for me, even if it's not their race. They put stuff in their suites. The Koretsky's were awesome. Let me put QR codes in their suites. But the problem with the QR codes early on is if you don't really know what the QR code is, you don't have that one little edge to get you to scan it. And I was really trying to just get some PA announcements, and we had logos on race cars, and they're bigger than a contingency sticker, but they're not as big, obviously, as a primary and associate. So there were some hurdles, to overcome there as far as getting Alan or Joe to talk about it over the PA. They've been great. But the Motorplex let me put A-frame signs up everywhere. They actually, Barry and Christy Johnson ran a Motorplex employee bracket. Like they had all their employees sign up and play, and then Barry, I think they paid $100 to each category, to whoever won. So
that's awesome, man. But I'm not surprised out of those two, right? Like some of the salts of the earth, but like that type of thing, I would imagine really would help.
It does, and just having the A-frames around. And again, it was really funny because at an NHRA event, the NHRA controls the pit side activities, but the tracks all have access. They can do whatever they want on the spectator side and can sell booth space and things like that. So Christy was like, you can do whatever you want on the spectator side. So we had this mini discussion about at the Motorplex, where does the pit side start and where does the spectator side start as far as, and so we made the assumption that basically the pit side starts when you're coming behind the tower. There's that area where we had like the auto club stage and everything. Yep. And like right where the short chute ends going into the pits, that's where the pit starts. That the pits don't start behind the tower. They start truly at the back of the staging lanes. So I was able to have some signage in a really high traffic area over there, which helped. And we had stuff in the suites and the Champions Club. So the biggest thing we've gotten is NHRA has done some social media posts for me that have gotten a lot of traction. We did an e-blast and the PA announcements. Just having Ryan Hart talk about it on the PA, people watching on NHRA TV, we can see a blip there. So this race, I'm doing some more social, some more PA announcements.
And I know those Drag Illustrated promos, I'm sure that almost crashed your server.
Hey, why do you think I basically, dropped a big bag full of cash off of Mike Carpenter's doorstep?
That's the only reason you won, I guarantee.
To get back on the show.
That makes sense.
The support I've gotten from you guys, from Jerry Bonkowski at Sports Illustrated, from Bobby at Competition Plus, has really helped push the ball forward because, your audience is so loyal, so reactive that, when people hear you talk about it and saying, hey, this is a cool deal. And also, real quick, I need you to send me either Racers Club or Drag Illustrated banners, because I'm experimenting with banner ads, whatever the traditional banners. So I'm going to put some banner ads just on our site this weekend and just click through them. Because I want to, we're going to roll into PRI with a marketing plan. But you guys have been great. Bobby's been great over Competition Plus and the Power Hour guys. And, just being able to talk about it and let people know, hey, this is what this is. You can sign up for free at the website. And then, you get an email on Saturday night that says the brackets are open. Click through. And, we're getting great response from that as far as people we don't bomb people with emails. But we're getting probably it takes a little while to fill out your bracket because you think about it. So people are on the site for like 4 minutes, which is, according to my IT guys, that's like a massive amount of time to hold people's attention.
It is a long time. I mean, I would say that's like double industry average.
Because they're honestly kind of sitting there and they're looking at it and they're trying to figure out, and we're going to add, like you guys have been great, we're adding a news feed next year so that when people are on the site, they can kind of see what the current topics are. Because sometimes like when Angie Smith crashed, people that were casual fans didn't know that she wasn't going to be racing the next day. And the same deal with, when she made the one run in Las Vegas, people didn't necessarily know
like the significance of it,
or the fact that, yes, she's on the ladder, but you may be a huge Angie, because we're finding people are picking women. They're picking, they're picking all the black guys. They're getting after the quadras because they, love Hispanic racers and stuff. Or you have guys like me that are wallowing around in 300th place because I pick all my clients.
I'm a bad sports bettor. I bet for the home team or the
ladder.
homie
I
almost
start out
every
so
time.
strong with my Camry Crusoe to win pro stock, my Josh Hart, Justin Ashley top fuel final round every race with a coin flip to see who's going to be the winner. And then, unfortunately, after the first round, there's a lot of times where I go from third to 440th. Because my bracket's just completely.
But Mike, steely-eyed Mike Carpenter over here, he's just heartless. No emotion with his picks at all.
And it was funny when we first started this. A couple PR people sent me texts offline like, "Hey man, I really want to do this," and then they're like, "No one can see our ladder, right?"
Right.
I was like, no, it's completely private.
Well, if they're number one in the points and your client hasn't won at all, it's safe to bet that they did not. Yeah, they're betting against.
But we're going to make next year. We're going to have it so you can share your ladder through your social media. We're going to make it so the ladder's printable. All those little things that honestly, I just wanted to make sure it worked this year. I want it to just continue to be fun and easy. And we're worried about bracket fatigue. Doing it 21 times next year. There's a hardcore group of fans that's going to do it, but we'll have some cool internal contests as far as like the 2 4-wide races might be a one-off little mini contest. You pick the majors, the Gators, the Winter Nationals, the U.S. Nationals. Might be it's one. The countdown will always be the countdown. But we're
real quick hot take, and we're going to cut you loose because I want to hear that. But hot take, a couple hot takes. One hot take. What are the majors?
For me, it will always be the Gator Nationals, the Winter Nationals, and the U.S. Nationals. You bring Englishtown back, that's your 4th major. Those are always going to be my majors.
I like that. I think
you could add some more to that. I think Dallas could be.
It's becoming a major.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming a major.
Maybe the Charlotte 4-wide. Maybe I'm biased.
You're biased.
You're very biased. The 4-wide will never be a major. That's just like saying that's like saying Tiger versus Phil is going to be a major.
All the credibility of Mike's is out the window.
No, he's still again. Let's all show our Drag Race Bracket Bonanza plaques real quick to just.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who's got the credibility.
We'll see who's got the credibility here. Okay, Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends at Aeromotive Fuel Systems, a brand built on passion and performance. 3 generations deep, they're not just making fuel systems, they're building a legacy. They've redefined what racers expect from their fuel systems by way of an unwavering commitment to quality and a spirit of innovation that has existed since day one. So if you're looking to upgrade your fuel system, you have to check out Aeromotive Inc. That's Aeromotive Inc. Inc.com. Trust me, they're the real deal. The only guys I've met out here that are as passionate about drag racing as I am. Okay, so next hot take. How do you, this is a deeply personal question, and everybody, it's like talking about religion and politics, I understand, but I do need to get your opinion on this. It's, are you pro or anti ride in truck bed while wheel standing down drag strip?
I am, could not be harder against that as far as, and this is a guy that did a lot of stupid shit in college. I mean, I can bring people on that are going to be like, really? I saw some of the shit you did, but no, that's just the implications there across the board. How that even got to the burnout box is shocking and embarrassing as a track competition director, a track owner. I mean, I don't know how you keep your insurance after something like that. I mean, you're talking about something so egregious in my eyes as a former track operator and someone that loves this sport. That's way beyond jackass stuff. That's, even if you rented a track privately to do something like that or suggested it, cooler heads would have to prevail and be like, no. Unless
we can't do
only
that.
caveat is, if you're making a movie about drag racing and Tom Cruise is the person on the back of the pickup truck, that's the only way that works. And we don't know how that came about. That is one of the questions.
That's one of the big questions.
Stuff. We saw the video. We saw him signing the waiver, whatever that was, before it happened, JJ in the truck and everything. Yeah. But what led up to that is the question.
Waivers
and how did he get that far?
Written on those.
But they were real adamant.
Like
that
if
he
you
signed
know
something
anybody
right
that's
there.
a lawyer, it's like, wait, waiver?
Yeah. You can wipe your tears
It's like,
with that.
That's just a terrible. That's just a terrible look. And again, we don't know the circumstances, but not to make light of the situation, but unless there was some kind of life or death situation that you had to do this, I just don't think there's really no reason for that other than,
I'm trying to think of the life or death situation that would be, so you've got Lassie, your daughter's in a well.
The front of the truck,
at the end of the track.
Has to be full first.
And the only way, and there's no passenger seat. And there's a small fire burning in the passenger side of the truck. Therefore, you can't sit there. Yeah. So how am I going to get to daughter in the well? Ground is lava. The floor is lava.
Right. The floor is lava, and you're carrying the cure for some horrible disease, and you have to get it to the person at half track in 3 seconds. And the only way to do it is on the back of a wheel-standing pickup truck.
Yes. And 2 wheels are all you're comfortable having on the lava at once. 2 tires.
Some kind of crazy physics angle situation.
Yeah. It's tough because I hate to make I'm not making light of it.
There were definitely some physics at work.
Jeez Louise, bro.
On the back of that truck.
Yeah. I just
hey dude, put your feet just like this. They fit perfectly on the little wicker bill, this wing back here.
Spoiler or whatever. But
yeah. And then hold right here. There's a little crease, like JT said, just a little body flex right there, and you're missing 8 fingers.
When you go look at a Raptor, you got to watch where the bed gets into the cab. It usually leaves.
Right? Your fingers.
When that thing comes down, you're lucky to have your nubs, man.
I mean, I know a guy that lost his nipple in a tragic running behind a pickup truck accident.
Oh, I got to hear this.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
I mean, we've all done it. You hold on to the back of the tailgate, the truck starts, you're running, and the guy, we're all in the back of the truck. He let go.
He only lost a nipple?
And he let go. And for that split second, he kept going. But then when he went to go grab the tailgate again, didn't get a good grab and slipped and landed smack on his chest with a white T-shirt on a gravel stretch of country road out in Terrell, Texas. Yeah. And we got up. His shirt was completely peeled back, total, basically like you took a cheese grater right down your chest and just left nipple gone.
I had a friend.
That would have been worst case scenario.
We don't know that. Life would be rough.
It is. I had a friend rip off his rip a nipple like with a ring off the side of a raft when we were on a
No.
boat trip, and it looks like a Slim Jim that you've already taken a bite out of. It's
Yeah.
pretty
It's just
That's a great description, JT.
The
Now
opportunity
it's
for
Slim Jim.
tragedy is
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And, you know, I can't. The fact that there wasn't one single person down there that said, "Hey, this is probably not a good idea."
If you've been to those events,
I know.
I've been to one of them at actually here in Mooresville. Nothing like that happened, but there is just a lot. It's very chaotic.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
Caught up in it.
And there's
and
really
it's
no organization. It's just kind of just a I don't want to say sideshow. That sounds negative, but there's just a lot going on, and it's JJ's show. So I could see something like that rolling all the way through to the burnout box, like you said.
I totally. I mean, I see how these things happen. I mean, I've had a couple situations where there's been. I've had a situation where there was like an unplanned, unannounced test attempt in the midst of eliminations at a race, and it's like you have to have somebody that's willing to say like, no. Like, no, we're not doing that. Like, because it never fails. Like, if anybody, it never fails. Right. Watch throughout the history of drag racing, never fails. The guy you let test, who's never oiled down a track, never torn up anything, never even wrecked my stuff. Can I please make a test pass between E2 and E3 or whatever? There's going to be a lot of downtime, and I'll go out there, and it'll be something on the track. Say no.
Right.
Always say no.
We had this discussion at the World Series of Pro Mod last year.
Yep.
Hey, what about if we just do this? You were like, some of us were all for it, and other people were like, no.
I actually have a funny story, kind of like the Wes. You know this story. It was like early 2000s. Steve Earwood would always call my dad as like if he needed a radio spot, a display, whatever. It was the day before the IHRA spring or fall race. I cannot remember this. And he called my dad and said, "Can you get down here a day early? I've got the whole Chamber of Commerce and TV and stuff set up, and we're doing something at the track. And I want somebody to maybe do a burnout and maybe just launch the car and just do something for these guys." My dad said, "Sure, no problem." So we roll down there. It's like evening, sunset's going down. We're looking at the track, making sure it all looks okay. Dad says, "This track looks pretty good. We might see what we can do here." And basically, long story short, goes out there, does a nice burnout, backs up, launches, full quarter-mile pass all the way down through, runs like a 620 something, 225 or whatever, which is a pretty good run. So the other teams that were there, and word spread that this had happened. And there was almost like a mutiny. They wanted us kicked out of the event. They wanted us to lose a qualifying pass the next day, something, because we had gotten an extra hit on the track for just, doing this for Steve Earwood or whatever. And I got down to the end. I'm like, "Why did you run it a full quarter mile?" He's like, "I don't know. It felt good." Might as well just see this thing on through.
Yeah. It's like, how many times have you heard a driver be like, or a crew chief or whatever crew guy be like, "Well, it was a planned shutoff, but it must have been feeling good." So not only did he run it 1,320, he ran it to 1,500 feet.
Oh, it's funny though. Like how beloved my dad is and how many friends he's got or everything. He had no friends after that happened. And we were ostracized the rest of that event.
First pass in the funny car, she done, half track where they're like, "Okay, we want you to hit the throttle, go to half track or as long as it feels good." Well, she just drives it right out the back door, 396, whatever, and everyone's losing their mind. And they're like, "What did you do?" She goes, "Well, you said drive it as long as it felt good." And they're like, "Well, no, drive it get it to half track." Or if, not like just keep driving it, but she was John Force's daughter, man. What do you do?
It felt good.
Yeah.
I let out of it whenever I knew it was we were done. Yeah. It's so class. I remember being at Beat the Heat Under the Lights. That's the name of the event, which I actually kind of miss. I think that's a fairly cool name. Montgomery Motorsports Park, Alabama. Me and my buddy Tugboat are there. It's like 3 a.m. It's 400 degrees. They ran this whole race at night. And I think they were down to like the semis, maybe the finals. And there was a pretty significant amount of downtime, right? Everybody's kind of standing around twiddling their thumbs. Well, here comes this like small tire Mustang around the corner, And they're like, "Well, since we don't have anything going on, Jimmy wants to make a test run or whatever." And I'm like, and I'm like, at the time, I don't know, my mid-20s or something, And I wouldn't have ever said anything anyways, not my place. But I'm like, this seemed like a bad
Yeah.
idea. Sure enough, he goes out there, big wheel stand comes down, kaboom, oils the track, starting line to finish line essentially, and it was a disaster, right? And it was just like, that is ingrained in my memory, that it's like, you just have to, we all want to be that guy.
Right.
We all want to be helpful. We all want to be courteous and take care of our customers and say yes as often as possible. But in those moments, the answer is no. The answer is always no, man. Okay, well, hey, Elon, thank you so much. Congratulations, man. Congrats on all the success. It's you're a difference maker in the sport of drag racing. We need more people like you, not less. And I can't wait to see what's next. And we're looking forward to being a part of this journey for as long as we possibly can, man. So
I appreciate it.
Be safe out in Pomona, and we'll talk soon.
Sure.
Double points, baby.
Double points, baby.